We do like 2-3 hours. It depends on what we want and what is the interaction, everything. Mataji Arudha, she wrote this book a long time ago now, first, about the homeschooling Krishna's children in general, what we can do with children. And then she started to write the cantos. So this is canto 1. She starts with summaries.
I think it's canto 2.
Oh, sorry, this is 2, sorry.
Uh-huh.
This is 2. She starts with summaries, and then she asks a lot of questions about the text, and then there is a lot of exercises about the chapter. So in this way you really get into the chapter, in the subject, why the pastime is written like this, what we can learn about it, and so forth. So she made now up to 6, she wrote up to 6 cantos, and she's busy with writing the 7th canto, and hopefully she can finish everything, and I hope she will also do Bhagavad Gita afterwards.
Mm.
So we get really into this, and we can teach our children more, and bring more closer to Krishna. So,
thank you, Mantrini, for introducing the books, because I just want to say that Mataji has been kind enough to drive me everywhere to so many cities in Europe, just so I am able to give these seminars. So we've been traveling since from Copenhagen to Hamburg, and now here, and then on to many other cities, temples. So thank you, Mantrini. So this seminar is actually meant not just for families who have children, but also for those who are preaching to families, who are preaching to grahasthas, because that's a very big part of the preaching process is parenting, right? Grahastha ashram, one major part of Grahastha ashram is raising children, right? So that's also good for those who are doing this. In fact, is it okay? Everybody can understand? If I'm going too fast, let me know, okay? Because I have a tendency to speak very fast. So,
maybe you need the microphone.
oh yeah, is it not working here?
Not for WordPress, and that's for us.
if you close the door.
But is it? But I don't know if it's working. Is it working?
So that's working, Mataji, but that is only for the broadcast.
Okay.
Yeah. So probably.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Then you all can listen to very.
Yeah, and then I don't have to speak so much.
Yes, Mataji.
There's more people coming. Right. It was because they were preaching to the grahasthas, and they were concerned about certain trends they were seeing among children, how they were not coming to the temple, they were losing interest, whereas the parents were very, very enthusiastic to do service in the temple, and they were very nice devotees. But the children were not, doing well, and so they were concerned, because Krishna, then how do we, carry this movement, right? Prabhupada said that if you make a whole generation of exemplary Vaishnava preachers, that will be the glory of our movement and also the glory of your country as well. But if you lose even one Vaishnava, that's a very great loss, he said. So really, Prabhupada's vision was to create leaders in society, isn't it? Not just, okay, obviously if you're a devotee and you're a leader, you will end up, influencing others, making policies that's going to help in making a society of God consciousness. There may be other religions, but still the basis will be spreading God consciousness, right? So Prabhupada's vision was very, very broad, very, very broad. And that's why Prabhupada stressed 3 things, and that was book distribution, deity worship, and Gurukula. That was pretty top on his list. And he tried to, even during his lifetime, he tried to open a couple of Gurukulas, because Prabhupada wanted them to become gentlemen, with good character. That was the basis of why Prabhupada wanted Gurukulas, is to develop good character in our children. He has a nice quote that I would like to read. If we train children by developing and encouraging their propensity to love Krishna, then we shall be successful in educating them to the topmost standard. Then they shall happily agree to do whatever you ask them. So Prabhupada is saying raising children as nice devotees is like giving the topmost education. Because Krishna is the source of all everything, material and spiritual. And so when we teach our children to love Krishna, they automatically get these qualities, isn't it? All the qualities that we are hoping to give our children, right? Good education, high education, right? Good, wealth and beauty or whatever, high, everything like the opulences that the demigods hold. This is what we want to give to our children. Well, these qualities, these opulences are waiting at the door of the devotee, Prabhupada says. With folded hands, asking the devotee to accept them, right? Just like Dhruva Maharaj was, when the airplane came to get him, so, he stepped on death, right? So, all these qualities are waiting for a devotee. So, what's very important is that we give them the spiritual education. This is not some, so in other words, our basis, it's not like we think sometimes in terms of balancing, that, okay, I have to balance material and spiritual, right? We have to give them material education, which is very important. We have to give them the tools to become a good grihastha also, right? Because they have to live in a family, raise their children, and they should be responsible grihasthas, right? In every ashram should be very ideal, right? But so it's not like we don't give them mundane education, but our basis, our emphasis is to help that soul in its journey towards Krishna. In other words, we have to see our children as souls who have not completed their journey in this life, right? Obviously, they are not ordinary children. To be born in a devotee family is very, very special. Prabhupada said there's two great blessings anyone can have. One is to have the blessings of a spiritual master, and second is to be born in a devotee family. So these are very big blessings. And the fact that our children are born in our family, it could be future, you may be planning for something, but inviting the soul, a special soul in your womb, it begins at that point, right? And that helps to kind of take care of all the complications. If you already invite a very pure soul by the process that Prabhupada has given us, the Garbhodhan Sanskar, so we are inviting a very elevated soul, so it takes care of all the previous karmic complications, right? So it starts very early actually, right? And then in terms of training, how? And Prabhupada said more than birth is training. More important than birth is training, isn't it? And we have examples in Shastras where, great, people, personalities, they have great birth, but yet they go astray, right? And we have examples of people with poor birth, but yet great elevated souls. So what is more important then? Is it birth or training? What is more important? It's training, right? Of course, if we want to raise a family and we want to invite a good soul, okay, we should start right now, thinking about it. It's always very important. We have the example of Prahlad Maharaj. He became such a great devotee just by hearing from the womb. So when during pregnancy, if a mother, reads Shastras, Srimad Bhagavatam and chants the holy name, obviously is going to have a very deep effect on the children. So the children are being born in families, in very elevated transcendental families. Of course, if we are practicing devotees, right? So the Bhagavad Gita says there's two types of yogis. One who do a little bit of yogic practice, but they fall down. And the other one is yogis who have done a long practice and then they fall down. So these are children, yogis, some kind of situation where they were practicing spiritual life for the longest time, and now they are taking birth in transcendental families, okay? It's not the first kind. Because the first kind is it takes birth in a family of rich, influential merchants. Because then with the facilities there, automatically there's, there's facility for progress, right? So imagine what a birth. So it behooves us to try to make it possible for these children, because and make it their last life, literally, because they've taken birth after the longest time, after going through this journey and practice. So it becomes our foremost duty is to help them go back to Godhead. So if we have that vision that I'm raising children, but it's a facility for that jiva to make progress, then the whole parenting takes a different turn, right? It's not like we don't have attachment. We have to have attachment, and attachment necessarily is not bad. But attachment to the service of taking these children back to Godhead is good attachment, isn't it? But if we have simply attachment for the fact that they are my children, my house, my everything, then obviously it's going to be detrimental for them, because our focus will be more on just simply taking care of the body, which is also very important. Prabhupada said we have to make sure that the children are healthy, they have as much as they want to eat, a lot of variety, right? All those things he said. There's no austerity for your children, except, he said, to follow this process, right? Do the morning program, eat prasadam, avoid television and all those video games, So these are the only austerities for them. But other than that, they can play, they can eat as much as they like, right? So all these things are Prabhupada. I was so amazed when I was writing this, the book that you saw, Homeschooling Krishna's Children. After my experience with homeschooling, and then I thought, I started doing seminars just on parenting, not because homeschooling is not everybody's thing. Over here in Germany, I know it's banned, right? Homeschooling is kind of bad. So, and also in places where it is allowed, not everybody is willing to homeschool. It is a good way, It's a nice way, because, even though the Vedic culture understood this fact that parents, due to strong attachment for their children, they tend to not forget the real purpose of parenting, is to facilitate the soul's journey back to Godhead. They forget that. And so therefore, somebody of greater caliber, like a guru, they were sent to Gurukula, because they were able to do that better. And there was a lot of love, there. It was meant to be a good, nice Gurukula. And so where the children, starting 5, they learned, they studied Shastras, they learned how to, how to follow instructions of higher authorities, You see, all these great personalities, the 12 Mahajans, we follow them, right? Because their teachings are so profound. And unless we imbibe them, and our children imbibe them, how do they develop that character, isn't it? So also this Gurukula training was meant for that, how they can serve the Guru and in a way follow instructions. So this way, they know what it means to follow the Lord, how to go back to Godhead. But so this was really the motive. But then over time, Gurukulas, there's not enough Gurukulas now, right? Where do we send them? They're too far away. And in India, there's meant to be a lot of Gurukulas, but all of them have kind of fallen away. Some of them have become corrupted, a lot of scandals and all that. So the whole system is kind of failing. In ISKCON, we are trying. And there are some really good Gurukulas, couple of them. So, but it's not an option for everybody, isn't it? So what do we do? So another alternative is to become the guru at home, and the home becomes an ashram. Okay. But that doesn't mean, it's going to be very difficult to make it like an ashram, like you would see in Gurukulas. It's a whole, this is a grahastha, this is a family. So there has to be some adjustments, right? It's not like we can perfectly follow. But the basic principles are there. Getting up in the morning, doing a morning program, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, eating prasadam, avoiding the things that are bad for us. We can definitely do that, right? And the whole environment should be infused with the with sound vibration. Definitely. I mean, you see in the Shastras, like, this was the whole example of grahasthas, one grahastha after another. You know, there's this, in the third canto, the story of Karda Muni, the marriage of Karda Muni to Devahuti. Devahuti's father was Swambhu Manu, and he was the Manu for that time, right? The lawmaker of the entire planet. And it's described so nicely. I mean, he was a family man, and how he lived his life, you know. There's so much sound vibration. He was sleeping with the Vedic hymns. He was getting up like that. Of course, he was king, so accordingly, he was given that facility. So in other words, even in this ashram, there has to be this understanding and this emphasis on this, the sound vibration. It's the most important thing, which means good association, the environment of always the holy name, Shastra, and practical devotional service, opening our homes to many, many activities, being active, because children like activity, right? They like variety, they like diversity. So we have to kind of give them that. We can't keep them like at home like a punishment. There has to be a lot of wonderful things going on, a lot of joyful activities going on. So they get a very good picture of what Krishna consciousness is, how positive it is, right? So this was Prabhupada's vision. He was very particular about, and this, like I said, when I started writing the book, people asked me actually to give my experiences in parenting. So I started doing that. And I was amazed, and I wanted to also research what Prabhupada's instructions were for us. And I was amazed the number of instructions that he gave. It was just unlimited. For every facet of a child's life, in every age, he had some instructions to give. How they should do japa, how they should, how they should be educated, what kind of school we should have, what is the purpose. And he said, children can follow any varna or ashram. He didn't say that they all have to be in the ashram and have, or be pujaris or preachers. I mean, that's great, but, he didn't say that. He said, whatever the tendency is for a child, it can be still adapted, but the basic training remains the same. So this was Prabhupada's vision on the philosophy of education for our children. Very, very broad and very, very... And what he really wanted to show is that how within Krishna consciousness, there's everything. We don't need to look outside. Sometimes of course, when we have to choose a school outside, then we try to find a good alternative. We try to go for Montessori school or Waldorf school. But Prabhupada really, actually, he rejected all of them. He rejected all of them. People asked him specifically about this or that. Because, it's just different ways of, managing the material energy. That's all it is. It may be a little good. It may be a little better. Then it's okay. It may be better in the sense that it's a vegetarian school. At least the children are not exposed to meat and things like that. But what he really emphasized is the importance of Krishna consciousness in the home. Giving them Krishna consciousness. That's what his emphasis was. And so when we moved, I was in America right after my marriage, and then I had children after that, 2 boys. And then when they became of school-going age, I started thinking about their schooling, one of those very important things. Which school, where it's better for them. I opted for a private school because I heard that they are better in every way, materially and spiritually. And just in summary, I was very disappointed, needless to say. Both materially and spiritually, I was disappointed. Spiritually, it's kind of easy to understand why, right? Because those same values you won't see in school, and materially also, academically also, is not very challenging for children who are bright, and those who are below average is a little frustrating because it's meant for the average. Schools are meant for the average. So in both ways, and the main thing that I was a little bit disappointed is that when they went to school, it was very difficult when they came home to put them in a different frame of mind, in a devotional. It took quite a bit of work to get them to read Shastra or play, teach them musical instruments. But So all those things. Anyway, I had the option in America, because in America, homeschooling is very popular. You know, there's about 3 million people who homeschool, and they all belong to very, good Christian families who care about giving their children values. And it's a very good system, because they sell curriculum. You can buy the whole year's curriculum and teach them, through that curriculum. So they give all kinds of facility. And I did exactly that. I thought in summer I'll just do that and check whether I can manage, because I was very, very nervous actually. And so I tried it for 3 months, and within 3 months they finished a whole year's worth of, the whole year. And we were studying very little, maybe 2 hours or less. Because why? Because there's so much quality education. It's tutorial system. Even today in London, the Cambridge and Oxford University is a tutorial system. One teacher with a few students. Not this big classrooms with 40 kids with one teacher all lumped together. This whole concept happened only 50 years ago in the Western world. It was only 50 years ago. Anyway, but what to do? But there is a way to manage it. There's a way. Because there's so many now examples of children who do go to school, but who actually are very nice devotees. So it can be done, and this is why I'm here, because I know homeschooling is not possible for you. So, but there is hope. There is a good alternative, and I know there's a lot of children already who are very wonderful children. But the key things, they are good children because the basic principles are being followed. What Prabhupada gave. That's where the success is in following the process of Srila Prabhupada, in having that faith. So this seminar will be divided into 3 parts. Purity is based on the ISKCON motto. Purity is the force, books are the basis, and preaching is the essence. Can you lift this? And preaching is the essence. So first we will do purity is the force, which means preparing our home in such a way that is conducive for our children's spiritual life. Charity begins at home. So first we have to, get it together at home. And one thing is some of the things that we should do and some of the things we shouldn't do. So we'll move on to the things we shouldn't do first. What are the things that we should avoid? So one important thing, that is avoiding screen time, limiting internet, which means we can give up something like television. It's not needed anymore, right? Because it has many, many problems. Even karmis accept that fact. They've done so much research on this, on the no-nos of watching television, that even karmis, their children many times, they grow up with there's no television in their home at all. Why? Because first of all, it breaks all regulative principles. The very principles that we are trying to follow, it breaks them. It's all about eating meat. Just about every second or third commercial is, meat and burgers. And then gambling, intoxication, illicit sex, tons of them. So in other words, it becomes very bad association for our children. We try so hard to give them good association, isn't it? When they come home, we try to bring them to the temple, even though they are in school. That association is not very intimate association. It's casual association, right? It is detrimental in many ways if they get, they get the bad association sometimes, but at least when they come home, then you can still, give them Krishna consciousness, right? You try to give them good association. You try to bring them to the temple. You try to read, some Krishna book or some book with them to help them, right? But when we are watching television and being on the internet, then we are doing just the opposite. We are giving them bad association. And it has a very, very strong effect on the children. This medium, the way it influences us is in a very subtle way. It influences us. We may think that I'm a devotee. I'll watch, but I won't get influenced. But it's not possible. It's not possible. You watch something for a few times and it becomes, you start developing those ideas and those tendencies, and very soon, in a subtle way, you start falling down. So it's very, very powerful medium. I'll repeat a story that I generally tell of my son who was traveling on an airplane, and he happened to turn on. He grew up with no television. We had a TV set and we would watch Krishna conscious videos on it, but not like a regular channel. Like it wouldn't turn on. Basically, it was not connected. And so he would watch sometimes on a long, long flight, this one particular flight. So he turned it on, and there was a show, an episode for like 30, 40 minutes and it was all about how stupid your parents are. And so the whole show was, and he was like, whoa, you watch this a few times and watch other shows that what are you going to think of your parents? Obviously it's going to have an effect. So you're telling them anything, you're giving a good example. The school, we don't know. I know in America, there's teachers don't care to cultivate in the children obedience, or respect for their parents. In fact, they may encourage to go against their parents, right? It's fashionable, it's just the in thing to reject authority now, right? You're very popular if you do that, right? So all these things are happening, but then this medium is very powerful. When they watch these shows, they get very influenced. So in other words, we shouldn't just casually give them opportunities to watch this and think, it's going to be okay. Everybody else is doing, so what's the problem? No. So anyway, so this is the content. And sometimes we think that good shows are good. So there's some good educational shows, but then it's the problem with addiction. You watch 15 minutes of a good show and then you can't turn it off. 15 minutes turns into half hour turns into 45 minutes, 1 hour. Why? Because it's so hard to turn off this medium. It's very addictive. It's like taking drugs. They've done research that it's like taking drugs. It's the same hormone that's released, like when you watch a video game. You cannot stop. Or when you take drugs, cocaine or something, you must have it again and again. So internet works on the same principle. And when that happens, then children don't know why they're feeling what they're feeling, why they're feeling depressed, why they're feeling angry, why they cannot take any challenge in their life, any negative situation, and they blow up. And I've seen that again and again. I've actually had teenagers come to me and tell me how they're feeling and why they're feeling, but they just don't know what to do about it. They can't stop. And we were discussing the other day that also it rewires the brain. It damages the brain tissues, especially if it's given early on in their life. As when we give them early, like 8 years, 10 years, it still has that. Some get even earlier, right? I mean, now in America, 5-year-old children are walking around with iPads. So when it's introduced that early, then it damages the brain permanently to the point that it's irreversible. When we take it as an adult or older, then it has less damage. So in this way, the productivity goes down. The biggest damage is they are not able to, they may see something, but they cannot retain it long enough. The power to retain something, to keep it, that knowledge, gets shorter and shorter. It gets shorter and shorter. So before they would change a scene, every 30 seconds or something, but now it's like 15 seconds or less. So it used to be like that. During my time, there used to be black and white movies, right? And one scene would go for like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and everybody would be blissful, just enjoying that scene. The slow scene, they're talking, they're singing, the emotions. Now if you give a child to watch that movie, they can't sit there that long. It has to change quickly. So you see then, so that the children's ability to keep that knowledge, why? Because all watching television is passive learning, it's not active learning, because it's a one-way download from the brain of the child to the screen, from the screen to the brain of the child. It's a one-way download. There's no interaction, so there's no creativity. There's no creativity for the child. The brain becomes mush. They've done research. When you watch television or internet, there's no activity of the brain. Why? Everything visual is given, all the sound is given, so everything that you need from the senses, they're given. You just watch. You sit on you sit on the sofa and just watch. And in America, the average time to watch this television is 4 to 6 hours. Imagine, and this is not just the television is on, they actually sit and watch. They actually watch, right? Imagine you go to school 8 to 10 hours a day, and then you sleep like 10 hours a day. That leaves 4 hours, and then that's spent on watching. So what quality time is being spent? What time is being spent to cultivate nice hobbies, to spend family time together? So important to spend time together, reading or discussing, chanting together, being in front of the altar and singing together. So family that does that stays together. This connection, the spiritual connection when we have with our children, especially when we read Srimad Bhagavatam together, it really brings the children very close together. Because Krishna is the center. So spiritual bonds that we've established through devotional service is much stronger than any material bonds that we may want to, do. Why? Because we are not this body. We are spirit souls, right? We have our children only for this one lifetime and don't know where they came from and where they're going to go. We didn't know that we're going to have these children as our children. Due to our karma and things like that, we got these children. So naturally, our biggest thing is, while giving them all types of comfortable situation, of course, but also to give, most importantly, is giving them Krishna consciousness. And if we give them too much comfortable situation, then they become also very addicted to that. It's like giving them. Sometimes parents, deny sense enjoyment for their children. They tell them to be austere just so they can enjoy sense enjoyment later in their life freely. Like responsible enjoyers, they want them. That philosophy is there. So in other words, making progress towards material goals just so later on they can be responsible enjoyers, being pious. But that's not really the goal. The acharyas like Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they were very clear in what they wanted, how they envisioned the children to be raised. Joyous, mischievous, no problem with it. Even the cow, he said, that's fine, Just like the cowherd boys, they had so much fun. Childhood is meant to be enjoyable, mischievous, right? They can be naughty, but always taking shelter of Krishna. What were the cowherd boys doing? They were taking shelter of Krishna. So that same mischievousness was channeled in the right direction. But if we don't train them in Krishna consciousness, that same mischievousness becomes a source of trouble later on, always. So many wonderful things our acharyas have given, wonderful things that are in the Shastra. This is all what Shastra is saying, what Prabhupada is saying. It's coming from a perfect source, right? So this is timeless. This is the beauty of this process. And it works. It actually works. So in other words, giving them a Krishna conscious lifestyle, always, growing up. Just like we do, we give our children the same way. So internet has the same problems as the television. It's even worse. Television, you can control the channels, but internet, there's no sure way to control it. And the problem is, if you're too long on the internet, if a child is too long on the internet, he will get into bad association. There's no way out of it. We can take all precautions, but there is no way. So we avoid giving them these smartphones as long as we can. If they need to call us, okay, give them the, not the smartphones, but the other phones where they can call. There's ways. And the only way it works, of course, it's very difficult because they have their peers in school. They say, no, I have to have that. The only way it works is when we give them this higher intelligence. That's the only powerful force that helps them make the right decision, that helps them control their senses. Something higher than what we can give them, which means Krishna consciousness. This connection with Krishna. When we give them something beyond this material energy, then only they are able to overcome this material energy. So in other words, how do we get them to how do we say no to them is by giving them Krishna consciousness. When we give them the higher taste, then they will be able to think twice. They will be able to control their senses. Because Krishna is Krishna within the heart. So and then of course also educating ourselves, understanding the dangers of leaving a child with this smartphone, with no supervision. I mean, I've gone through many seminars. I've had parents come and tell me and cry, what their children are already addicted to, they don't know how to control. I've had teenagers come and be so upset and crying, what the types of things that they are facing, the depression and anger issues. Like I say in the seminars that we are not realizing it now, okay? But 10, 20 years or sooner also, 10 years from now, we will realize it'll be too late for our children. The next generation coming up will have taken that steps. Okay, don't take it. Just like smoking, don't smoke. Already there's so much education about the dangers of smoking. It's already there, right? So same thing we will realize, but for our children, it'll be too late. So why should we lose this one generation of our children? Why we cannot take steps as a community, individually, to help our children have good association? Generations before that, they never had these things. They was much, much better. The reading skills, I remember my grandfather, he was like, he was such a good reader. Such a good vocabulary he had. And I don't think he was that high educated, maybe he had high school, but he could read like anything, newspaper or anything. It's not like now we depend so much on this technology for every skill that we can imagine. And life is getting more and more complicated in return, right? So what do? Internet is a fact of life. We are not against technology. Imagine so many things we can do only through technology, right? We can reach a whole audience out there and preach them about Krishna consciousness just through social media. It's such a powerful tool now. And we have to engage that technology in Krishna's service. Nothing wrong with that. But we know when to use it and when not to use it. And this is what we have to learn, and this is what we have to tell our children. We use it like a tool for the purpose that is meant for, but we don't use it for entertainment, for social media, for having friends. Young children get so pressurized. They create their identity is through social media of who they are. And sometimes they go through cyberbullying, right? And they go through so much pressure because their identity is how those people think of him or her. They don't care what their parents think of him. It used to be they would go home and say, the girl or boy would go and say, how do I look, Mom? Right? And mom would say, oh, you look so nice. That was their approval. Okay, my mom and dad is saying I'm looking nice, I must be looking nice. Now it's not like that. Where is their approval rating? What their friends on social media. And these are not real people. They're giving a good image, but their life is totally different. It's a totally unreal world. And with the result that they are lacking real skills, social skills. They're vacant, they're lost, they're empty. Of course, we are devotees and we try to do things differently. But it can, if you're not aware of these things, it can lead to something like that. I know I was in last time in South Africa, and we went to this farm community. Farm communities are so nice, so peaceful. And this mother was telling him she had a teenage son, and she's just like, he's lost in his little phone for hours, and he won't listen. And she didn't know what to do. And amazing Krishna consciousness there, amazing farm, but children, very difficult. So this is one medium that can really, in spite of your best efforts, it can drag the children to another direction if we don't take steps. If you feel bad, and that's very typical, of parents. Okay, I feel bad, everybody else has it, it's my child. Okay, well, we have to do something about it. And that's where these three aspects come, Practical devotional service, purifying their heart, their mind. Shastra, feeding the intelligence through Shastra. Today in class, Prabhu was saying like that. If you don't read Shastra, then no matter how good a devotee you are, at some point your Krishna consciousness starts weakening and you may even go away. Because that foundation, that strength, that foundation is lacking. So important. So just like it's important for us and we want to do Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav and all these very important Shastric degrees, right? The same thing we have to give our children also. And the early they start, the stronger they are. These children become so empowered if you give them Shastric knowledge alongside with practical devotion service. They become so empowered. They can change the lives of hundreds of people. Because they are born in devotee families, they've been raised chanting the holy name, raised in reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Imagine what they can do. And this is what Prabhupada envisioned. This is the goal he had for our children. And surely we can do it. And it doesn't take too much. For me, my most enjoyable time was when I was teaching my kids, Of course I did it at home, but in other words, they just became my friends because we were spending so much time together. We didn't have a generation gap. Why? Because we were doing the same things, the same music. Of course, we had our struggles. Not everything was perfect, We had our same music, we had the same food, we had the same clothes. So where is the gap? Very little. The first thing that, you go to church, the first thing is they separate. The kids go this way and the adults go this way. But we want to keep our kids with us, right? When we chant and dance, our children should be with us. Okay, during class, they should have their own program going. We take our children wherever we go. We do the same thing. And that's why Prabhupada said so many wonderful quotes by Srila Prabhupada. He said, we do what the elders do. The children do whatever the elders are doing. This used to be his refrain. There's no difference, except they need to be educated. So when the man goes to work, the children are educated. But the program is the same. And somehow Krishna will make everything work. It's amazing. Because this is our most important duty, and when we are fulfilling that duty, Krishna is very pleased with us. He's so pleased with us. Because again, we are facilitating the soul's journey to Krishna consciousness, back to Godhead. So Krishna is so pleased that he fills in those gaps. He fills in those gaps. Whatever we think, oh, we didn't do this for the children, oh my God, what's going to happen? You know, are they going to have a decent job? Are they going to? Of course they will. Why? Because the mind becomes, in Krishna consciousness, the mind becomes so clean and clear. There's no crap there. Right? So in other words, then the intelligence becomes very sharp. So whatever you do it faster. Your understanding of anything is sharper and faster. And you save time. So all these activities are very, very powerful. Whatever Prabhupada gave us, these basic things in life, they are so powerful. So we shouldn't take them lightly. That, okay, it applies to me, but it doesn't apply to the children. So I'll quickly go through these things because I'm sure you're already doing all these things, but just a quick reminder of the morning these things that are very important for our children. You know, doing a full morning program. You know, when you come in the temple for a morning program, how different you feel, right? Or even if you do it at home. Some people cannot come to the temple. It's okay, but do it at home, and you'll see the difference. You'll see the difference in yourself and your child. It just something happens. It energizes you, gets you ready to face the world. Whether they are book distributors, whether it's a man going for a job, whether it's children going to school, it's like a shield, armor. It protects you because you've spent your time chanting the holy name. And then when they come in the evening, we again hear and chant. This is the Yuga Dharma. Lord Chaitanya becomes very merciful in this process of Sankirtan Yagya. So we have to take advantage of it for our children. So many things are, powerful, but the congregational chanting of the holy name, when we do it together with our family, is very powerful. Because it does something to the heart. It purifies the heart. So this is what it makes them peaceful, intelligent, well-behaved, and we can make it flexible. We can make it flexible. If it's not possible to have a program like in the temple, we can shorten the program, but we should not skip it. We should not skip it. And spend some more time in the evening doing the same thing and reading Shastra also, finding time for that. Then japa should also be encouraged, but in a very, very positive way, not in a negative way, because then they'll never want to chant again. Right? We shouldn't force them to chant japa. We shouldn't use it. Prabhupada said we shouldn't use it as a punishment. You've been bad, you chant 2 rounds now because you've been such a bad person. That kind of thing. No, you chant with them, we chant with them and make it joyful. We chant together. We can take out so many rounds out of our 16 rounds and chant with them. Then it becomes nice. Or chant with devotees, you know. So eating prasadam is also very important. Something that we know. All of you have nice prasadam here. So and even at home, when we have to be packing for our children, we pack them food that's offered to Krishna. Very important, because food affects our consciousness. Prabhupada said if this is only if you do only this one activity of eating only prasadam, you go back to Godhead. Imagine. It's so powerful. Because we are what we eat. Whatever we take in, we are influenced by that. And for children, eating is a very important activity for our children. They experience the world through their tongue, right? And so we need to have nutritious prasadam for them. And there's ways to make sure that, even when you have parties outside, if you know how important this is and you give enough information to the children to read Shastra with them, children need constant reminders. And believe it or not, they actually are not, they don't object to it as long as their parents support them. As long as they have the backing of their parents, they're actually very happy to do this. I know my younger son, he wrote one time that he didn't, when he would go out, when we had to go out and attend a party or something, then he would not eat non-prasadam. He always felt that he had a secret pact with Krishna, he wrote. okay, Krishna doesn't need it, so we don't need it. And that's because of constant reminders, and that's because we were reading Shastra, we were reading Bhagavatam. And there's so much, those stories are so powerful that it really affects them. It really goes down, They actually assimilate these instructions very deeply. So in other words, we make arrangements like that. What I would do is I would take a pot with me, and so everybody can eat that from that pot, and we also got prasadam. So we knew, okay, these are the things we can eat. Maybe a pot of pakoras and a pot of rice, vegetable rice. So we have 2 things to fill up, no problem, right? So the children would go and eat that, and everybody else gets prasadam. Right? So we can do that. So, and you can really influence, you can preach too much sometimes, right? To karmis, they just are not willing to, but you feed them prasadam and their heart becomes softer, immediately changes. So we would do things like that. And if we also went on vacation and go to national parks, we'd take a little, cooker and cook over there, offer the food, sing a morning program. In other words, you can experience a lot of fun, go on vacations, do everything. Just make it Krishna conscious. My son, when he went to Oxford, he told me that in spite of such a, like Krishna conscious upbringing, there's such a powerful, heavy influence. And this was college. What to speak of in high school? High school, the peer pressure is very, very strong, right? So he was saying that even in college, the peer pressure is so strong. And it was a party college. It was Oxford, right here in London. It's like a party university. It's called a drinking college. Everybody must drink. This is the culture of that university. And there's such a big emphasis on partying and drinking. How do you survive? He said, if I did not have the Bhaktivedanta manner, I don't know how I would have survived. Yeah. In other words, even children, even our devotee children need alternatives. That's why we need to send them to places where there's a temple, where there's a devotee association. I had many options. My Guru Maharaj told me, why would you send them, even though it's so close to you? What about association? So we sent them all the way from America to Oxford, where there was an apartment where devotee kids were living. And these were devotees from all over the world, Japan, everywhere. An international place. And these young students from Oxford, they lived together. And they had their little morning program in the morning. They took turns cooking prasadam. So in other words, we have to give them protected life also. Some regulated enjoyment. It's not like, okay, now they're devotees. Even to the point when we choose to send them to colleges, we have to make a good choice. And of course, later on, they have to be on their own. They get married, and then, even then, the guidance carries on, but in a different way, right? We're always there for them. So anyway, so this is very important. Oops. A little bit of deity worship and also is very important. Yeah. So again, involving children in different festivals, like you see this little boy, having a Rath Yatra cart, so involved in it. So children need their festivals, they need their ways of doing deity worship. On a daily basis, they can, have their own altar, or even if it's the parents' altar, with assistance, they can help, bathe the deities and things like that. Why? It's so important because they learn to see Krishna as a person. When you serve Krishna and you bathe him and dress them and all that, then Krishna becomes somebody lovable. Love comes through service. And that's why we see so much impersonalism now. Because there's no mode of service, actual service to God. So anyway, this is very important. So we'll move on. So Krishna consciousness in the early years means focusing on spiritual life. Krishna conscious training from 5 to 10, obviously this is school time when we follow the 5 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic. Oh, sorry, this is not correct. Arithmetic, Sanskrit can be there, and raga and rote. Rote means memorization, and raga means music. So these are the 5 things. If you give a child, he can become very strong in every subject matter. He can become very strong. Why? Because reading, writing, language arts becomes the basis for all humanities. And how did we do it? We are going to come to that next section very quickly. Is through Srimad Bhagavatam. We taught all the language arts through Srimad Bhagavatam, and that became the basis for good language and vocabulary. The language and vocabulary became very strong. Srimad Bhagavatam is master's and PhD level. So you can imagine. Prabhupada said that. He wanted our children to learn English and Sanskrit just so they could read his books. And he said they will become masters and PhD. I will be reading that quote for you. So that became a basis. And then you teach them math, and that becomes the basis for all sciences. So English, math, and then rote, memorization. Music is always good for the mind to relax. Sound vibration. So, and some writing, of course. Okay, so we'll go on to good parenting means having first faith in Srila Prabhupada's books. So here Prabhupada has some beautiful quotes, and there's many, many more. I'm just going to read these 3, and please listen carefully. Our students specifically, they should take care of reading Srimad Bhagavatam. We have therefore prescribed in our school Dallas, from the very beginning, if they begin education with Bhagavad Gita and then come to Srimad Bhagavatam and read the whole literature, then they will be more than MA, PhD. Even astronomy, astrology, politics, sociology, atomic theory, everything is there. Therefore, if you study Srimad Bhagavatam very carefully, then you get all knowledge completely. Throughout the whole world, whatever knowledge is there is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. If one simply reads the Srimad Bhagavatam, his education is the topmost. If one studies Srimad Bhagavatam, he is well versed in every subject matter. So Prabhupada is saying it will cover. If you give them a foundation of Srimad Bhagavatam, so by the time they get to college, they would have understood the Vedic the Vedic essence of all these subjects. And then if they are learning subjects that are atheistic or impersonalistic, it won't affect their hearts, because they have this foundation of theistic knowledge from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that too given in a very convincing way, in a way that answers all your questions. It's very vast. I mean, just the creation described in the 2nd canto, 3rd canto is so vast. I mean, who can object? Who can make up such a creation story? It's impossible. It's not possible. Right? And now when they go to school, they learn science. What are they learning? Big Bang theory, evolution theory, this theory, that theory, and it's changing now. New theories are coming, right? And actually, the way they present it is so vivid and so attractive, that naturally the child wants to believe that. Even we, if we watch these on television, wow, it's so easy to convince through, these theories are easy to convince, right? Just because the way it's presented. So what do? When we give the knowledge of the Bhagavatam, they already know that actually Krishna is the source. Without the touch of the spirit, there can be no, activation in material nature. Only when Krishna glances at material nature can everything comes to life. He is the explosion. The Big Bang theory is not the explosion. Krishna is the explosion, right? He's activating everything. There is no proof. Where is the proof that matter acts on its own? Where is the proof? Even a small blender, at home, you start a blender, there has to be somebody to turn the switch on, right? It doesn't start blending on its own. It doesn't produce many blenders. So by giving them the knowledge, everything, every pulpit after pulpit, Srila Prabhupada is doing that. Defeating the Mayavadi theories, defeating these scientists. Because he wanted our children to be powerful preachers. Even they can become scientists. So it's very important to give them, and only Bhagavatam can give this knowledge. The nice thing about Bhagavatam, the reason why children like it is because it's in the form of stories. But all the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the form of stories. So the children find it very entertaining. They like to keep moving and moving and moving. Okay, so we'll go quickly on that spiritual benefits, the character part. We do want our children to have good character, right? Because the first people, if they don't develop, if they have just materialistic qualities, then the first people who suffers are the parents. They become they disregard the parents, they neglect the parents, or they have no time for them, or they don't take the instructions seriously, right? Good character means they are going to be very nice children. They are going to be children who are going to, at least follow some instructions, right? Because they've grown up doing that. They've heard from the 12 Mahajans. They've heard from these great personalities. They've heard the story of Dhruva and Prahlad. They've heard the fact that Dhruva went to Narad Muni and he followed his instructions and said, okay, you do this, 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 go to this forest, do this, 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 and you'll see Krishna. So they've already grown up, reading this, understanding this. So for them to follow instructions, for them to be grateful to their parents for having done so much, it's going to be easy. Otherwise, it's impossible. The tendency in children, you tell them something, that's the last thing they want to do, right? They don't want to follow anymore. Because it's just moral things for them. Morality, Prabhupada said, mundane morality, it doesn't go very deep. It's good, but it doesn't go very deep. But when we have this morality based on the dharma that pleases Krishna, the Sanatan dharma, then that kind of morality goes very deep. So there's many nice stories of Parikshit Maharaj, humility, showing humility, tolerance, good leadership. How somebody who's so humble, how can he also be a good leader? We think humility means just being meek, a coward or some kind of, person who doesn't have a spine. No. The kind of humility that he had made him so great. That's what gave him the empowerment to go back to Godhead, to have the courage to go to the Ganges and to stay there for a whole week without food and water, right? Those very things that we want our children, this gives the strength to them to follow, do the right things. So these are not small things. The type of qualities that Bhagavatam teaches is not the top shallow ones. Just because the stories lead you into that, the stories encourage you to see it in the proper light. Because they bring many, many nuances into it. It's not just about, okay, Parikshit Maharaj did not reverse the curse that was given to him. It's not just about that. He was so good, he was so nice. No, he was thinking very deeply about it. Why he did not want to do. He did not want to go against the current of time. Krishna had a plan. Krishna had a plan. And he accepted that plan. He was worried about the child, Shringi's father, what he was thinking. He was not worried about himself. He was going to die in 7 days. Let me do what I can to save myself. I mean, everybody needed him. Everybody needed his rule. People were shocked. And to, so all these things are very nice. And then, of course, story after story after story, Prahlad's story. So Bhagavatam is taught by contrast. Somebody bad, like a demon, then you'll see some hero, some amazing devotee. Right? So children are don't think the whole world is demoniac. Many people think, if I teach them through Shastra, they're going to see the whole world as demoniac. Because that's what the scripture is all about. Bad father, bad so-and-so, bad this. Curses after curses. No, it's much more than that. If Hiranyakashipu is there, well, Prahlad is also there. The story is showing us how to live in a world full with Hiranyakashipus. Our children start having hope in the world. The Bhagavatam gives positiveness, it gives hope. This world may be bad. Times are getting bad. We have to accept that, right? The Bhagavatam and Krishna book and all is full of the nature, the terrible nature of this material world. Prabhupada discusses that freely. Why? Because unless we understand that, how do we, go back, how do we become attached to Krishna? But he does it in light of understanding that there is a solution for it. That's the wonderful thing what Shastra gives us. It does not give us desperateness. I have no hope now. Look at the tragedies I've gone through. Sometimes personal tragedies can be killing, can devastate our life. Right? How do we react to that? I mean, tragedy after tragedy in Bhagavatam, right? One tragedy after another tragedy. Suniti, she's lost a son. King Anga is losing his son, Vena. Every story is a tragedy. But it's not what Bhagavatam is focusing on, is the tragedy. What is focusing on, how these people react to that tragedy. Do they pick themselves up? Do they take shelter of Krishna? And this is what we are giving our children. Because material life will bring its miseries. But we are giving them the empowerment how to react. How to see it as a plan of the Lord for us. How does Suniti react? Very unlike somebody who would react. Who herself has been pushed out of the palace and then now seeing the son also. Devastated. But she had the presence of mind. She was so chaste to Krishna. She knew the conclusion of Shastra, even though she was a simple woman. She probably hadn't even read Shastra. So this dependence, on Krishna, the protection, we have to teach our children how to always be under the shelter of Krishna. So this is what we're giving our children, these qualities. The academic benefits follow the spiritual qualities. They follow, automatically come as a byproduct, rather. It's a byproduct. The academic skills that come from reading Srimad Bhagavatam, the strong reasoning abilities, the critical thinking abilities, the communication skills, good vocabulary, powerful vocabulary in Srila Prabhupada's books, right? Critical thinking. No story is simple. It makes you think and think and think, and it's layer after layer and after layer after layer. Who's right? Who's wrong? Why? Why did he curse? What is good anger? What is bad anger? Are curses okay? Even devotees get angry. Is that okay? Every story has been discussed in depth. Right? So it gives that critical thing. In America, if you want to become a lawyer, they expect you to have a degree in philosophy. Imagine. Why? Because they want you to develop those skills in coming to philosophical solutions, not because of the content of philosophy. You teach a child Srimad Bhagavatam, he's going to become the best lawyer. Imagine. Reading Srimad Bhagavatam, story after story, the type of skills he's going to adopt, right? So methodology here. So so how do we teach our children? Well, this is what I tried, and you can try it also. You can make adjustments as you feel fit. So it's always best to read the purports ahead of time. You read one chapter ahead of time. So, and with purports. Now, if you don't have the time, you still do it. The reading the chapter ahead, it just helps in understanding the chapter better and making the discussion very, very meaningful and deep. And the biggest benefit is the parents. Teaching Bhagavatam to our children means we benefit the most, even more than the children, believe it or not. Why? Because it forces us to study Bhagavatam and also to speak Bhagavatam. Among all the people who help in the promotion of Bhagavatam, people who are distributing Bhagavatam, people who are, helping in the publishing of, printing and publishing. So many people are involved in this promotion, in this marketing of Bhagavatam. But the most benefit, who gets? The speaker of Bhagavatam. So when you are teaching Bhagavatam to your children, who's getting the most benefit? It's you, right? And believe me, you get the same realizations as you would get in a class full with adults. At least I experienced that. Because it's speaking to the soul. It doesn't matter who's your audience, right? It doesn't matter. You're not speaking to the little body, you're speaking to that soul. And so it has the same effects. I read the entire Bhagavatam, I had no time. We were running a preaching center. There was so much work to be done. So many times I didn't have the time to read ahead of time, right? But being an adult, we have so many of life's experiences, right? But I remember we were able, in just 5 years or something, 6 years, we read the entire 12 cantos. I know I wouldn't have been able to read Bhagavatam if I weren't teaching my children, studying every day. Slow and steady, you end up, just such a winner, right? So anyway, then we take turns reading the translations. Each child, if he knows how to read, we take, and this way you keep them occupied, engaged. Otherwise they get distracted and all that, right? And you don't read purpose with them. Once in a while, when the discussion goes in such a way that you can't answer their questions, then yes, we read. And my experience has been, whenever we read purpose together, the answer is there. Just the questions that you cannot, as a parent, answer, right? Prabhupada will answer for us. Right? So we would read, but then not all the purports, because children like to move on, keep going. And we were able, like in 1 hour, we were able to finish a chapter. Sometimes if the chapter was very, very long, then we divided into 2 classes. So in other words, there should be a nice pace going on. And you don't discuss every verse. There's layers and layers, and this is not the first time they were going to be reading the Bhagavatam. You give them a certain amount that appeals to you, that you feel that you want to share and everything. And you won't believe when you're discussing those stories, so many things. Children will suddenly open up. It's the nature of the Bhagavatam. It helps you just reveal your heart, and you open up. Just like you have a class with your friends or adults, you see how people want to speak out. They want to give their realizations. This is something, and the children feel the same way. And what happens is they start speaking out, just different things they may be experiencing, questions that they may have that they can't solve in school or whatever. They start opening up. And what happens is you suddenly have a very strong relationship. You have great communication with your children. Because it's that bond that Bhagavatam gives us. And you can also open up your heart to them. We were running a whole center, so they were, later on there were devotees living around, and running a temple is never easy, right? There's always some things going on. We would discuss those things in light of the Bhagavatam, and we would try to find the answers there. And so it's all, bringing us together, right? Discussion also gives them good vocabulary, good communication skills. I never taught them grammar. It was always this discussion, reading. They develop so much skill just through reading Bhagavatam. It's very, very powerful. Then we had reflection where the child speaks out and says what he got from that story. And it's amazing the kind of realizations they come to. Amazing realization. Because the longer they read Bhagavatam, they go deeper. Their ability to go deeper and deeper gets better. So they come out with very deep realizations. So this is the examples, just a slide of that, and we have these books there. And so what you do is, after discussing these, going through the Prabhupada's book, Bhagavatam, then you open this guidebook and you do these activities. This is now like Mataji so nicely said, I mean, this is like a whole, this is a whole teamwork, like of 10 people who are all over the world. We have Australia, New Zealand, everywhere. And they could be coming together to create resources for every chapter of the Bhagavatam, for every chapter. And these resources are making this chapter more digestible for our children through the form of activities. So there's critical thinking activities, for example. So when they do that, then naturally the philosophy becomes easier through these activities. Critical thinking, analogy activities, introspective activities, theater activities, there's skits, dramas, puppet shows there, language activities, science activities. There's a lot to choose from, and you can pick out whatever you want. The Mayapur Gurukul, the Vrindavan Gurukul, they are using these books for their children. The Vrindavan Gurukul is, by the time they go to high school, they would have finished 6 cantos. This is how they've designed it. So it's very, and they're teaching also English through these books. They've been able to do that too. Anyway, but whatever you can do, the least we can do is at least have Bhagavatam every day in a family, discuss these topics together, and also, now these books also have the summary. So they have the summary of the story, and based on the summary, there's some discussion questions, which you can use when you discuss with them. If you don't have the time for all that, at least you can even pick up this book and just do straight on from this book, because these books are based on Srila Prabhupada's books and also on his purports. So you still get everything. Like, if you're using it for Sunday school, you can just take it directly from these books and start doing it. And many temples are doing this. They're using these books for their Sunday school. Because the children feel a sense of accomplishment. They finish one book. It's also a book that you can write in sometimes. You can also write in. So they feel kind of a little proud. I have this book. And then, now I finished first canto. Now I just had a mother from India said that she had this Sunday school. And she said, oh, we just finished canto 1 and we're going to give them certificates, that they finished successfully canto 1. Now we're going to go on canto 2. So the children feel like they have something under their belt. They feel like, wow, I did something. These are books that, because there's 6 cantos, right? And they move on. And you see the teacher benefits so much from it. Because you have to look at it, right? You have to do something with it. You suddenly, and I know teachers in Vrindavan who are teaching this subject, these books, they get so addicted to it. I've got quotations by them saying that, they just feel so blissful, And the children look so bright and blissful. Suddenly they're all vision. I have quotations by them. They see the difference. And now, many Gurukulas are realizing that we also need to teach our children, give them spiritual education, Shastric education, not wait till high school to start Bhakti Shastri. And so they've now started to introduce them early, starting primary school. Mayapur is doing that, and so is Vrindavan doing that. I'm just saying that how this was Prabhupada's vision for our children. He wanted at the Dala school to have Srimad Bhagavatam. And Bhurijan Prabhu, who was the Gurukul teacher for many years, he writes about that. How he started writing things from the Bhagavatam for the children. Because he knew it was Prabhupada's desire. Anyway, so we'll finish with the second topic. It can also be done through the ages, okay? 2 to 3 year olds also can be given Bhagavatam. How? Through pictures. They can read. So we show them pictures after pictures, and we tell them the story. And they like to see pictures, and this goes, Krishna is absolute. When you hear about him, you're with Krishna. You're having the association of Krishna. Even when you show them pictures or read a story to them or tell them a story in your own words, it's very powerful. And you can do that again and again. And then this is a very good age, and I've seen miracles in this age. You'd think they're so small. They cannot read, maybe, but they can understand a lot, right? So you read to them, and then do these, activities and all that, and and with time they go very, very deep. One boy who was only 4.5 years old, I was teaching him the story of Dhruva Maharaj, and we came across this episode where when the airplane comes from Vaikuntha to take Dhruva back to Godhead, a beautiful description of the airplane, the two associates of Krishna, Nanda and Sunanda. The description was just really beautiful. And so he was hearing this and he said, I want to go in that plane. Naturally, like a child, I want to go in that plane. I want to go back to Krishna right now. And I said, okay, you can do that. I thought he's excited, so it's okay. Maybe I'll just encourage him to keep reading. And then after a little while, he said, no, but I want to go on that plane. I want to go right now. So I said, okay, you can go, but remember your parents cannot go with you. So you'll have to go alone. Is that okay? And he started thinking about it, and he said, no, I'm going to wait. Why? Because I don't want to make the same mistake that Ajamal did. Imagine, 4.5-year-old, 5-year-old child. And this Ajamal story we had done a long time ago, several months ago. But he did the connection. He made a decision based on 2 stories and made such a sound decision, right? That he's not going to leave his parents because he doesn't want to make the same mistake as Ajamal did. When Ajamal, his life changed, the first thing he regrets is that, oh my God, what did I neglected my old parents. Because he left all of them. He left his chaste wife. And that's the first thing he does, lamentation, regret. And he remembered that, right? This is what gives them this deep character. That's what I mean. No matter what we do, it has effect, but not as deep. Same thing with 15-year-olds. We just go deeper and do the same process. The questions becomes why and how. Even when they're younger, like 4 to 7, the questions are why and how. Not all factual. This happened and this happened and this happened. No. It's why and how also. So, and then making comparisons. And I've had such experiences with kids of all ages. Amazing experiences. Okay. Just one quick example is Dhruva's story. It's a nice story. I mean, generally I recommend starting from Canto 1, Chapter 1, and the books will help to do that because it makes it very enjoyable and simple. Because Canto 1, there's a lot of philosophy there, but also wonderful stories, right? The whole Mahabharata and, is there, the Pandavas and Drona, Ashwatthama and all that. So it's interesting, but also it can get very tedious. So we can use these books. Otherwise, just to give them a little attraction for Srimad Bhagavatam, you can do the story, just to get them to get attracted to what Bhagavatam is. You can do the story of Dhruva, which is very nice, because it's about a child. These are child saints. So naturally the children are attracted to these stories. It's natural. And the questions can be very basic, it can be very deep. For a 8 to 16 years old, the questions become deeper. Why did Suniti, how did she react versus Suruchi's reaction? How Suniti made such an unfortunate situation to such a fortunate situation. Something so devastating, both for the mother and son. She turned it as, the gateway to the spiritual world, just by her instructions. just a few minutes instructions where she gave the right instruction, not being afraid to send Dhruva to the forest. Of course, it was Satya Yuga, so times were different. We can't do that. But yet, being so courageous, knowing what is the most important thing in life. That's what she's glorious, right? She's glorious as a mother. It gives us encouragement how motherhood is so important, right? And fatherhood. Okay, so that's there. Another question is, why did Surichi suffer a heavy reaction but the king didn't do? If you read the story, all these questions are very important, right? Why Sudniti became such a glorious personality, even though externally her situation was so devastating, right? Anyway, so the many questions are here. And you can, and these questions are in the guidebook, but also you can create your own questions, right? Some conclusions from the story, not to be envious. Surichi displayed so much envy. She was wishing death for Dhruva, basically. And that's what envy is. You want to harm the other person, you wish death for that person. So that's envy, right? Okay, and then being always chaste to Krishna, both mother and son. Okay, then the third part is preaching is the essence, very important. This is the last part, and we have like 5 minutes to finish this, and then I'll open it up for questions, okay? So, this is when giving Krishna consciousness, making the faith of the children strong by giving them facility to share Krishna with others. You know how when you give a class, when you have to teach something, that material becomes so, you have to really know that material in and out really well, right? You really have to know the material, right? When you teach this. So it acts in the same way for our children. When they have to go and talk about Krishna consciousness to others, their own faith increases. They think, oh, I'm proud to be a devotee. Why? Because everybody is applauding, yay! Right? This is what we need. We need to give our children opportunities for showing leadership. I was taking my children to school programs, and as they got bigger, for high school programs. And they were speaking there when they became 10 to 12 years old. They were giving presentations. Before that, we were giving presentations, but they were watching, right? And they were observing. And so when they gave that, then they had to take questions and challenges. And you have to know Krishna consciousness. Even if you don't know, it creates an urge to know, right? So it's not just about teaching them, but it's about them sharing Krishna. They become compassionate. They learn to see the world, not in negative ways, how bad or demoniac they are. They learn to see the world in compassionate ways of how I can help them, how I can share this knowledge to others. They become kind and compassionate. We don't want to raise fanatics. We want to raise children who have compassion for others, who can see everyone as spirit souls. So many opportunities are there. You can find your own opportunities in the city, and you can go and you have Harinam here, book distribution. These are all opportunities to share Krishna consciousness. And these children can do the same thing that we do. Harinam, book distribution, school and college programs, schools. Get schools to invite you. That's what I did, is I would have them contact them and see, okay, if you're interested, can we come and share Krishna consciousness? Can we share our philosophy with you? In America, in many places they are looking for things like that. Some places they don't want you, then you don't go. But there's ample opportunities. Schools. And you have to just find a way how to get in. And there's libraries and there's daycares. We'd even go to daycares and tell them Krishna stories. Why not? It is so good for the children, right? That's what we are trying to do to them. To show them that how this can be given. And the younger the children is, the more they are sharing their ability. Even when they're small, their ability to share by chanting, Hare Krishna mantra there, or showing their dress, or so many ways they can share, right? And as they get older, they can talk. So like that, home programs, temple programs, all these are great opportunities for children. Youth programs, we should have youth programs, children's programs. Become active in our community. Why? Because we want to give our children, make them strong in Krishna consciousness. Later on, they have a choice, whatever they want to do. But when you give them early on, then you know that the foundation is strong. So even when they get distracted a bit, they'll come back. They'll see. One child came back, no, the prasadam that my mother cooked for years and years, I need to go back. Just the prasadam brought him back. So everything that you do in Krishna consciousness is full with value. Little things, you're giving them, it's penetrating the hearts. You're giving them a culture of Krishna consciousness. And when you give them a culture of Krishna consciousness, then that goes very deep. So both have to work together, the theory and the practice. Anyway, I think this is what I have, and then here are the books, festivals and temple programs, vacations, make it all. We used to go on parikrama, Braj Mandal parikrama.
We can do now a short break.
Yeah, we've done. We are finished. I'm just, we can take a break and you can come back for questions.
Yeah, we can do a short break now, 10 minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Okay.
then we do questions and something
Yes.
in 30 minutes, and then we take the start.
Okay. Okay. Sure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can.
What is it?
You want water, no?
Yeah, I just want water. Is this juice?
Yeah, we will bring water for you.
What is it, tea or juice? Is it tea?
It's cold, but it's not cold, it's not hot.
No, but it's not fruit, right? It's not fruits, it's tea. What is it?
Yeah, it's kind of. It's a tea, but it's not hot.
No, I don't mind that. It's just that I cannot take fruits right now. Yeah. I don't need water, okay? You need to turn it off. You turn it off?
Yes,